Hey guys, it's Miss Gephardt, and we're going to go through this PowerPoint done by shellyscience.com. It's a website I've used before, but it's a really good PowerPoint or kind of presentation. I'm sorry, going through the cell and its organelles, so I do want to go kind of give her credit for this because it's not my work, but it's definitely good stuff. So we'll start off sort of reviewing the cell theory. And the cell theory basically talks about how cells originate or what is necessary for cells to originate. So the very first thing we have is that all living cells have to be made of cell, or all living things, I'm sorry, have to be made of cells. So that's kind of a definition of something being alive, is that it's made of cells. The second thing is that cells are responsible for carrying out everything that you do in this world, from eating to breathing to sleeping to moving to everything. It's necessary to support your life, your pets' lives, the grass and the trees and the flowers and everything like that. And the third thing with cell theory is that cells can only come from existing cells. So in order to get a new cell, it had to originate from one that was already there. Okay, so that's kind of the cell theory, something just to be aware of, but it sort of defines what how cells come about and their purpose and role. All right, and these are some contributing scientists to it. I'm not so concerned that you know this, but you can see Antoine van Leeuwenhoek, Robert Hooke, Francesco Redi, and Louis Pasteur, all involved in some way in seeing cells either through a microscope or coining the terms or looking at coming up with the cell theory. They're all kind of ones associated with it. All right, there are two types of cells, and so this is really, really important. You have to understand the main difference. It's kind of like a tree. It kind of branches right here. Okay, so we've got prokaryotics or prokaryotes or prokaryotic cells. These are thought to be the first cells that came about. Okay, and with a prokaryotic cell is very, very simple cell. There's no nucleus. All that DNA, that hereditary material, is just hanging out inside the cell. And some examples would include archaea or bacteria. And so that's one, just think of how simple a bacteria is. It's a very simple little cell. Very simple, not very complex. The other main branch is something called a eukaryote or eukaryotic, and that's going to define all of us, okay? Anything that you know of cats and dogs and birds and trees and flowers and everything, we are eukaryotic. We're more complex organisms and we're more complex cells. But it's believed that the eukaryotes evolved from the prokaryotes. Eukaryotes have a nucleus. The hereditary material, or DNA, is contained inside that nucleus. So it's not just free floating all around. It is contained inside that nucleus. And of course you can see all the examples are pretty much everything else. So the animals, the plants. We'll talk about protists a little bit more, not right now, but everything else pretty much on the planet would be defined as eukaryotic. All right, so let's go through the cell organelles and all of the different pieces to it. Just to start off, a cell organelle is going to be, think of it like a little organ inside of the cell. It's exactly what it is. And it performs a specific function. So like your heart performs a function, or your brain performs a function in your body, so do the organelles inside the cell. They perform a very specific function. All right, so a cell wall, to start with, and I know it's kind of a random place, but we might as well just start somewhere. A cell wall is only going to be found in plant cells. So none of you on your test on cells are going to tell me that you, human being, have a cell wall. You don't have a cell wall. You are not rigid and stuck up like this, okay? You are you're gooey. You're able to, you've got form and texture to you. You kind of, jello-y. Plants are not like that. Plants are very rigid because of that cell wall, okay? It's made of cellulose. It's very strong, stiff. It's support. It protects. So think about you versus a tree. You punch the tree, chances are you're going to hurt, okay? And so on your chart, it kind of gives you a place to put this organelle in terms of a city. And so for us, a cell wall is going to be like that surrounds a medieval city. So we can think of that as a cell wall. A cell membrane, and cell membranes are going to be found in both plant and animal cells. Cell membranes are going to be the outer boundary of an animal cell, and it's going to be the boundary before you get to the cell wall in a plant cell. It's going to provide protection because obviously the animal cell, that's the only protection it would have. It's going to control anything that comes in or out, so it's like a doorway. It provides support. It's going to help keep the cell going. So it's because it allows things in and out, it's going to maintain that cell. If I need oxygen in the cell, oxygen's going to come in. If I need to get rid of trash, it's going to go out. And so we could think of it like the border of a city. It's going to be something that kind of borders the rest of the body. All right, so the nucleus, both plant and animal have it. It's large, usually oval shape, usually centrally located, and this is the brain of the cell, basically. It's controlling everything that goes on. Every activity in your cell is controlled by that nucleus. And you want to think of it like the mayor's office in a city. Cytoplasm is gelatin, okay? It's going to be found in both plant and animal, and it's gonna cushion everything, so it's going to allow for all these organelles to sort of not bounce into each other, and it's going to allow things to sort of easily travel through the cell. The Golgi apparatus, you might also see it as a Golgi body. Both plant and animal have it. It kind of looks like a stack of pancakes, so it's kind of squished like this. And what it does is it processes and packages up the molecules like a protein. So you want to think of it like the post office or UPS. They're going to put all the stuff inside the box and put all the shipping labels on top of the box. Okay, so it gets it ready and nice and packaged up. The ribosomes, both plant and animals have it. These are going to attach to something called an endoplasmic membrane, or they could be by themselves flowing. And what they do is they produce the proteins that your body needs. So if your body needs something, this is a protein, maybe for your hair or something like that. These ribosomes are going to be responsible for making and producing those proteins. So you have to think of it like the brickyard that's supplying the city with what it's made of. We are made of proteins, so it's supplying us with the proteins that we need to keep, our nice, beautiful, shiny hair or whatever. Or beautiful nails, I should say, too. Endoplasmic reticulum, both plant and animals have it. Okay, this is going to now move the stuff through the cell. So we have the Golgi body that packages everything up. The ribosomes make the protein. The Golgi is going to package all this pretty stuff up, and the endoplasmic is going to move it. Okay, it's transporting it around. There's two different types of endoplasmic reticulum. You also see it as the ER. One is smooth, which means if it's smooth, there's no ribosomes attached. One is rough, which means there are ribosomes attached. And so think of it like a highway. It's moving, or a conveyor belt. If we're thinking in terms of movement, it's pushing things around in the cell. Okay. The mitochondria, both plant and animal have it. It always generally looks like a bean with all these little folds on the inside. The responsibility of the mitochondria is it's going to release energy. So whatever you eat and consumed in your day, it's going to be broken down and stored. That energy is going to be stored in this mitochondria. When you need energy, it's going to give it off. So think about your muscles, for example. Your muscles are going to have a lot of mitochondria in their cells because you need it to function. All right. So we want to think of it like a power plant in a city. Vacuoles are found in both the plant and animal cells. In plant cells, they're going to tend to be quite large. So there's not going to be as many, but the vacuoles store stuff. They store food, they store water, they store waste. So in a plant cell, they're going to have a lot of large ones, but they're going to probably store a lot of water in those large ones. Animal cells, we have a lot of smaller ones. But again, we're just storing stuff. So warehouses, a water tower, a garbage dump, those are kind of things that you can associate with a vacuole. Lysosomes are only found in animal cells, only animals, okay? They're small and round, and these guys are going to digest things. So they're breaking stuff down. They're going to break down larger food molecules. If we have, let's say, pieces of the cell that are starting to wear down, it's going to be a place that digests that and sort of breaks it down, and in essence recycles it. So if it can take stuff in and reuse it, it will. If it can't, it sends it out and says, okay, this is garbage, we got to get rid of it. The very last thing we have is or we don't have, I should say, is the last organelle is the chloroplast, and that's only found in a plant. So nobody's going to tell me that you have a chloroplast, otherwise you're looking an awful green and, you know, all that kind of stuff. You're not. Um, Usually oval shaped, kind of looks like a watermelon a lot of times in diagrams. They're going to be usually green in color when we see them. And what they do is they're going to allow the plant to get its energy. Because remember, plants don't go off eating little bunny rabbits to eat. Okay, it's got to get its energy by doing photosynthesis. And so the chloroplast is the site of photosynthesis. This is where it's going to absorb the energy from the sun. It's going to do a little magic trick, and then it's going to create its own food so that the plant can nourish itself. And so we could think of this kind of like solar panels on a city's building, because the solar panels are going to bring in the energy and allow the building to sort of run. Okay? So if you have any questions, please make sure you ask your teacher. Hopefully this is kind of hopefully review for you, but make sure you go back and look through the slides and feel comfortable with all of the parts of the cell. And we will continue working with this in class.